Hello everyone. This is going to be a tutorial about the 6 kingdoms of life. Everything must be named. Alright, so if you are alive, you fit somewhere into the grand scheme of things on this particular graphic. Even if you're a lowly little small single-celled organism all the way up to complex multicellular plants and animals, we are probably somewhere out over here if we're human. But this represents all life as we know it. It's a funny little tree, isn't it? Taxonomy and classification, they are similar but not exactly the same thing. Taxonomy is the process of identifying and classifying living things, sort of the scientific process of identifying, all right? More of the science of it. And classification is the division and grouping of things according to similar characteristics. So the actual division and grouping is classification. The study of it and the science and process of identifying all those things is taxonomy. Okay. There is one famous individual when it comes to classification, and we know him today as Carolus Linnaeus. He was a Swedish scientist. His family and friends, though, knew him as Carl von Linné, because as was appropriate for the time, if you were a scientist and you published works, all of your work was written in Latin. But so most scientists would also take on a Latin pseudonym, kind of false name, that they would use when they were publishing. So he always used Carolus Linnaeus, and that's how he became famous. But his real name was Carl von Linné. And he is considered to be the father of modern taxonomy. And he is rocking some cool shoes over here. Today we have what we call, it is the largest group of organisms. Is when we classify things is called a domain, and there are 2 to 3 basic domains depending on who you talk to. But I think we're pretty much well on the way of saying 3 domains. And the 3 domains are eubacteria, or sometimes just called bacteria, archaebacteria, and eukarya. All right. Eubacteria and archaebacteria were previously lumped into prokarya, so there were just 2 domains, but we're getting to the point where there's really 3: eubacteria, archaebacteria, and eukarya. And the difference between these has to do with a couple of things. One, the group prokarya that includes eubacteria and archaebacteria are living things that have cells with no nucleus and no other membrane-bound structures inside of them. Okay, so these little simple guys right here, they're small cells. There's no other structures that are really obvious within those cells, whereas eukarya have lots of stuff going on inside of their cells. They're much bigger. They have membrane-bound nuclei and mitochondria, and we've got chloroplasts if you're a little plant-like thing, all sorts of stuff going on inside of eukaryotic cells. All right, so this one here and this guy over here are both eukaryotic, and these 2 are prokaryotic. Now, as far as the differences between eubacteria and archaebacteria, it has to do with sort of their where they like to live. Eubacteria tend to live almost in any habitat all over the place. Archaebacteria really like extreme environments. They like really, really hot, really, really cold, but we will talk more about that later. So moving on. There are 6 basic kingdoms: archaebacteria, eubacteria, which are our prokaryotic kingdoms, protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia, and those are all eukaryotic groups that have those membrane-bound structures. Now let's see if we can get some more detail here. Kingdom archaebacteria are single-celled prokaryotic, remember that means no nucleus, primitive organisms that can be autotrophic or decomposers. Autotrophic means they make their own food, so they do photosynthesis, or they're decomposers and consumers. They prefer extreme environments like hydrothermal vent bacteria, but other examples include really, really high salt places like salt lakes, really, really low oxygen places, high temperature ranges. Let's see what else. Extreme pressure, things like that. Kingdom U bacteria are also known as the true bacteria because we sort of knew them first, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything because archaebacteria have probably been around on the planet for longer. They are also single-celled with no true nucleus, prokaryotic. And some of them move, others don't. Some make their own food, being autotrophic. Others don't. They're known as heterotrophic. That means other feeding. They have to get their food from other places, not from themselves. And decomposers, which are sometimes known as saprophytic. They're found almost everywhere, as I already mentioned, either in soil, in air, on ice, inside of other organisms, inside of us even. Some examples might include blue-green bacteria, blue-green algae, which are found in the oceans and in other bodies of water. Really good photosynthesizers. Okay, Kingdom Protista. Kingdom Protista is mostly single-celled. There are some simple multicellular ones in this group, but the thing that distinguishes them from the bacteria is that they have nuclei. They have membrane-bound structures, so that means that they are eukaryotic, or eukaryotes. Some of them move, others don't. Again, they can be any variety of feeder. They can feed themselves and be autotrophic. They can be consumers, some of the species, and some of them are even parasitic. Examples include amoebas, diatoms, euglena, paramecium. We will see a lot of these later on. And here's some pictures. Lots of variety in Kingdom Protista. They're quite fun, actually. And I'm looking forward to y'all doing some microscope work with this group. All right, Kingdom Fungi, mostly multicellular, eukaryotic, mostly don't move. They are heterotrophs. They cannot make their own food. They can be decomposers or parasites, and they include mushrooms and molds and puffballs and yeast, all sorts of stuff. And here is your happy little fairyland. All right, moving on. Kingdom Plantae are multicellular, eukaryotic, have very limited movement, but all make their own food. They're all autotrophic. They can make their own food. Examples include mosses and ferns and all flowering plants and trees, things that you know. Lastly, Kingdom Animalia. They are multicellular. They have nuclei, so they're eukaryotic. They move. That's a major characteristic of animals. They are all heterotrophic, which means they cannot make their own food. They have to find their food on their own by eating other stuff. And examples include sponges, jellyfish, insects, fish, frogs, birds, humans, us. See, SpongeBob's cousin. All right. Can you recognize all of these kingdoms now, I hope? Well, you're going to have to demonstrate that tomorrow, so make sure you can kind of have an idea of recognizing which group is which. If you need to watch this again just to verify, then do so, okay? That's all for now, folks. Thanks a bunch.